Hi, all. It's Jan of the Jan Files. I appreciate you watching me, and I hope that you have subscribed and hit that notify button so that you'll know when I'm putting things up. So I'm going to talk today about the GOP desperation, and they are desperate. There is no doubt about it, and so they really are hyping up their opportunities to cheat. They are doubling down on their racism. They're doubling down on their misogyny. They are doubling down on their ugliness. It's quite something to see. It's not a surprise, of course, but they know that they're going for the shitter in November. Now, the thing that we need to do is to make sure they go into the shitter in November, because what they are doing now is they're getting to the scariest parts of, well, I don't know if it's just now, but anyway, of fascism. One of the big things is that the state goes after its opponents. So Donald Trump has been doing this for a while, but now we're getting it, when he's targeting Comey and Mark Kelly and, all these other people, Letitia James, Jerome Powell, he has this thing where he's going to go after his perceived enemies, right? But now also the state, the FBI, are going after people just because they have written a story that they don't like. They are investigating reporters. This is, they're investigating actually even people who say things like me, not that they're investigating me, but, people with large accounts that are getting out there and saying things. And when they don't like it, they too, I'm sorry, oh shoot, are getting a knock on their door. So we are now fully into the state's persecution of its citizens. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I'm not, I don't know that there's a way to prepare for this other than to make sure that if you think that you are one of those people that they might come after, that you know what to do if they do that. So you have a lawyer who you can call, your rights. You have a person that you can call and say it's happening, blah, 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 and you have things in place. If you really think you're in harm's way, it's going to require some preparation. Some of us will not be able to prepare because it will come out of nowhere. And make sure that you understand that everybody around you, that this can come out of nowhere. And I'm not trying to scare everybody. I mean, I think everybody's already scared, so I don't know that I'm adding anything to it other than to say the deep state, the corrupt deep state that is protecting itself all over the place, but most especially with the Epstein files, and in other ways with their manipulation of the stock market. So basically what we have, folks, is a bunch, which I spoke to the other day, a bunch of very, 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 very wealthy people that are pulling the strings. Okay, they're pulling Trump strings. They're pulling it in ways that, he can get a payday, right? He gets paid by them. He offers dinner for $1 million. I mean, this is all corrupt. It's all against the Constitution. None of this is legal. It's not. But because we no longer have a Justice Department, this is what's happening. And it's also because we no longer have any kind of Congress Republicans, let me be really clear, because they're in the majority, that are going to do anything about any of this. Not one of them has any relationship to their morality or their integrity. But this recent thing of a Washington Post journalist being her apartment was raided and her computer and everything else. The Atlantic being prosecuted by Kash Patel's FBI because they wrote the story about him. I mean, we can all see where this is going, right? But there's going to be all kinds of, especially in local and smaller towns and maybe some smaller cities that are really Republican leading. Watch out, because I see that is also where they're going to really start making inroads. You see it already, and when you go to these town halls or these meetings that are held for the public to ask questions, and they're being literally dragged out in many cases by cops, and they're not doing anything wrong, and it doesn't matter, even if they are like saying something and then they sit down, the cops come over and still pick them up and drag them out. That's not democracy, folks. That's not you being able to exercise your First Right Amendment. I'm not talking about somebody's just being crazy and not allowing anything to proceed. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about legitimate citizens with legitimate points of view being stopped. And these little fiefdoms that these people have in different places in different states, and you can see them. They just sit on the dais like they have to answer to nobody. And some of them are actually kind of like saying that I don't have to do what you want me to do, even though they were voted in to represent them. So this is this kind of mini tyrannies that are going on, are going to expand in places without a lot of Democrats who can push back. And I think that we're going to see more and more and more of this. And I think it's going to outrage more and more people. And I think, honestly, at the end of the day, it will backfire on the Republicans, because people do not like to be told that they don't have the right to say something, that they don't have the right to stand up, that they don't have the right to demand accountability from those who represent them. And that is not okay with most any American, okay? Almost on whatever side you're on. They want to be heard. We want to be heard. And when you're literally shutting it down, only one side of the conversation, everybody notices. And I think everybody is noticing. And while I hope that what happened in Virginia today, where the Virginia Supreme Court kiboshed the map drawn by Democrats, that we overcome this. And I think that, and other people have talked about this, the way we overcome this in voting in such numbers that they cannot cheat, that they can try to keep people away from the polls, they can do everything they want to do, but we have to vote in numbers never before seen. We also have to volunteer at polls. I've done that in the past. I'm thinking maybe this time I'll go out of state, because I live in New York, and at least around where I live, there's not going to be that kind of shit at the polls. So I will look at potentially going to be a poll watcher. I don't know if you can, if you're not from the state, like in Pennsylvania or something. But anyway, we have to constantly be vigilant about what is happening even in our spaces around us, not just on the national stage, but our local stages, because people are going to try to intimidate people. They are intimidating people. And it's finally when Democrats say, fuck you, because I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm done being afraid of you. I'm done being afraid of putting up my sign in my lawn because what my neighbors are going to do or say, or et cetera, et cetera. We have no time for that fear anymore. None. Well, we never had time for it, but we no longer have any time for it. Because when the Southern Poverty Law Center is being sued, we're up a fucking shit's creek. Okay? One of the best institutions out there in terms of fighting the good fight is the Southern Poverty Law Center. Them and the ACLU do incredible, incredible work. if you do have extra dollars or even $5 to send every month to one of these, or Democracy Docket, which is Mark Elias's team. These are the people that are really fighting for us on the ground. We need to make sure that we're fighting for each other. We need to make sure that we go to these town halls and we show ourselves and make ourselves known. And maybe you do get escorted out. But that's the least of our worries, right? Being escorted out of a town hall meeting. And I can only say that as they ratchet this up, we have to do the same. And I'm always talking non-violently, okay? Others have different ways and different thoughts about that. But from my perspective, the violence doesn't work. It doesn't work. And unless we are finding ourselves in a place and we're not there, I hope we don't get there, but we're certainly not there now where we would encourage anyone should encourage a civil war or taking up arms, because I think that is irresponsible. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think anybody who says that really understands the power of the U.S. military, because we're not going to be able to go up against them. What we can do is encourage them to stand up and encourage them, as Mark Kelly and other people did, to speak. Do not do things that are illegal. And so, in general, I guess the point I want to say to everybody is really, really, really pay attention and watch out. Okay? Document everything and anything. Make sure that you have a plan, and make sure that I'm not saying go out and hire an attorney, but if something happens, you should have at least an attorney's phone number in your wallet, on your phone rather. Your wallet shows how old I am. On your phone, and that you can call in case something happens. So we're on the brink of things taking, I believe, a real big step down. And I mean bad. I think that the policing is going to get worse. And we need to be prepared for it. We don't need to be stupid about it. Don't get arrested for nothing, okay? Make sure that you are very strategic in your protesting and you're standing up, because we need you on the streets. We don't need you in jail. And a lot of times that's not going to be anybody's fault but the cops, but c'est la vie. So I just want you to make sure that you are paying attention, that you have a plan, that you talk to others about this very thing, because I think as they get more desperate, this is going to get worse, because they're already obviously seeing the writing on the wall with all of the special elections that have gone to Democrats, and they're scared for their lives. And remember, they have no integrity, they don't have any relationship to their word, and they have no morals. And that's a really dangerous combination when you also don't have any respect for the law. So stay safe, take care, and I will talk to you later.